Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Linda Darragh, and Linda is from Northwestern University. She is the Executive Director of the Kellogg Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute, and she's doing a lot right now in terms of helping the Evanston community get through this pandemic. So, Linda, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Meet you, Aaron.
Thank you. Well, next time, hopefully in person instead of Zoom. But I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you've been interviewed a lot lately, and people are trying to get the word out about what you're doing. But to take a step back, what is the department that you are running at Kellogg at Northwestern University?
Sure. It was about 8 years ago I came to Kellogg to help build this initiative around entrepreneurship and innovation. And the critical thinking on this is when you look at entrepreneurship, you can't put it in the Department of Finance or marketing, because entrepreneurship really is general management, and it crosses all disciplines. So that's why entrepreneurship was kind of set apart from the other disciplines, but in that way, can incorporate all the great things that go in across Kellogg for research and teaching, et cetera. So the focus on this is really entrepreneurship in multiple career paths. So quickly, you can launch a business, or for a student, you can go into growth stage business and help grow a company, or you could actually be entrepreneurial within a large corporation. So lots of opportunities to be an entrepreneur.
Are there a lot of people who are, in a business right now when they're in the program, or is it mostly people who are straight from undergrad?
No. So actually, we just had our Northwestern-wide venture competition last Wednesday, and the winner was evening and weekend or part-time student. And they actually had built their company while at Kellogg and had used the classes to help, develop their own idea. And he's already raised $1.2 million for the company and going ahead. So we've got other students who are building companies while at Kellogg, and other ones who really want to be entrepreneurial, but they don't have that perfect idea right now. And so we'll go into growth stage company and then launch their company later on.
I mean, it's almost like the university is a consultant for the businesses in many ways, because you could use your practical real world knowledge and be able to apply it to some of the best minds in academia, right?
Exactly. And a lot of our faculty are VCs and serial entrepreneurs. So they have real world on hand, experience, and they're attached to a network that, is around the country and around the world.
And you've been involved with entrepreneurship for a long time for your career, right? I mean, you've done more than Northwestern. You've been involved at 1871. You're part of, a lot of different organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about that, like Impact Engine?
Yeah, I think what's kind of interesting in my background is actually I started years ago working for the Women's Business Development Center. So in that way, I've worked with, business. I look at everyone thinks of VC-backed businesses, but like 95% of the businesses in the world are not venture capital backed. They're great family-owned businesses. And so I've worked with small businesses. I was on really small businesses to growing businesses to venture-backed businesses. So really seeing a wide range of businesses in different growth stages or growth trajectories in different industries. So you take all those learnings to look at patterns and what works and what doesn't.
So you talk about patterns, and now let's talk about what's going on right now. Should a business ever have to plan for a pandemic?
It's a really good question, Aaron, because what we found is that people haven't even done that. And when you think of some of the companies that have just gone down, and I don't mean the small business, but really large businesses that have taken on serious debt, they're in real trouble right now. Yeah. So, just good, prudent financial management to make sure that there is cash flow, there are reserves, is even more. I think people are going to understand how important it is now.
I mean, you talk reserves. I mean, do you think you need like 6 months of reserves in order to be able to survive certain things? Or
yeah, I mean, there's lots of not-for-profits as well as profits who have those kind of metrics in hand. Do I need 6 months? Do I need 8 months in reserve? Absolutely.
Yeah. So
it
now
also allows for two things. There's the downside of it, but
right.
There's also the upside in that what if there's an opportunity to buy another company or hire a strategic employee or, go for a new customer? Having those reserves gives you options to weather the high points as well as the low points.
So do you think when the government is offering a lot of loans right now to small businesses, it's prudent to them to take it if they can get it? Or is it a lot more debt that a company may not need?
Under what the regulations look like now, if you can stabilize your business and hire back people when things open up, then these loans will be forgiven, and it could be a great solution for a short-term crisis. Whether people are going to need more in terms of loans to go through, into the future could be something you really have to consider, and how much debt you want to take on for operating expenses over the long term.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're seeing in Evanston with Evanston businesses, and how are you helping them?
So it's kind of interesting. Some of them have been just kind of financial management. Is that I do have these PPP loans right now, and how should I look at my financial projections going forward? 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, depending on different scenarios of how things will open up. So those kind of scenario planning through financial analysis, I think, are really helpful, so people can understand and plan for, as I said, these different scenarios, and think through these, how this will all pan out over time. So that's one. The other things that have been kind of interesting is that all of a sudden people have gone virtual and have realized that they've got new customers that they didn't even anticipate. And so should they continue virtually afterwards? If they do open up, do they continue just with face-to-face interactions? Or can they add a virtual component that retains existing customers in new ways and gets them engaged, further with the company, or, opens up e-commerce opportunities to people who are not in the neighborhood. They could be anywhere in the country. So if you're going to add this virtual component, you really have to kind of think about how you're delivering that. Do you have to invest in some equipment or maybe a better website, things like that, so you can continue this, by virtual and in-person environment.
And those are some of the things that you help walk people through in order to be able to best determine how they utilize their new virtual environment.
Yeah, and I think it starts with who are your customers and how are you serving them. So, it's going back and kind of analyzing what your in-person customers were and who's coming in online. Are they so different that you have to change what you're doing in your value proposition, or is it in line to that so you don't have to divert too much energy for a new customer base?
Right. A good example is my wife. She is a reading specialist. She's a tutor, meets with students, and she was meeting with everybody at an office space in downtown Evanston. And when all this started, she couldn't go in there. Obviously, you can't meet with somebody in a small office at that time or even now. And she converted it. For years, I suggested, why not try to do some more virtual? Because you don't have to just be local. You can meet with students around the world. And I get it. It's much easier to be in person. It's more comfortable that way. And she didn't want to do that, and everything was fine. But now she shifted to everything being virtual. And now we still have the worry about being in person with other people because obviously the virus isn't over. So it's just going to stay virtual, and she's not going to have the office. So what do you say to commercial real estate owners who have this office space? Where do you think it's going to go? And then, I'll follow up on that after you answer this.
Yeah, I mean, I think commercial real estate is going to go through some really soul-searching times now, because I know so many people who have offices downtown, and they aren't letting their employees go back at minimum until the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year. The whole idea of working remotely, people are trying to figure it out. So, and you look at the big box retailers. Mm-hmm. Well, how do we repurpose? I mean, that's really the question. Are these office buildings going to become apartment complexes or condos? Is large big box places going to be the new warehouses as we bring more manufacturing and inventory, close in the United States? I think it will be more repurposing of real estate into different functions as we go further.
I mean, when you talk about that though, with the big box retailers, and you taking them, and if they go vacant or turn into warehouses, that can significantly change what the property tax rolls are, and it affects what the finances are for municipalities. So do you foresee a lot of changing in services that are provided by government? Do you foresee actually more privatization, even though we have such big stimulus packages right now?
Yeah, it's hard to know how we're all going to sort through all this. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. There's one of our Kellogg alums out of Mexico City has built up a wonderful kid-focused educational environment. Think of Disneyland goes into financial management for kids. And these are all around the world, and they are like phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. He's putting one in a Sears store out in Oak Brook right now.
Really?
So that's a whole entertainment complex that's going to go in there. So, sales, when you think of property taxes and what's going to come from that, it's probably equivalent. Now, warehouses, no. So, I always look at it as a crisis, as opportunities as well. So I don't know if we've really unraveled all the opportunities that could come into place in some of the real estate options out there. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I know in terms of my business, what I do to make a living, in addition to the podcast, is I'm a real estate broker, and I work mainly with residential. So that's actually been okay. People want houses, and they value it a lot right now, especially for the home office and, having some outdoor space and things like that. And what we've done is we've adjusted as an industry to doing a lot of virtual open houses, or people are really starting to take advantage of doing more 3D tours, which I've been doing for a while, but I think it's really becoming much more prevalent now. And I hope it sticks, because it makes it much easier for people to kind of flush out what works for them and what doesn't. But do you foresee a lot more virtual environments for things like that you have to see in the physical space at some point?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a real microcosm of what can happen in moving into virtual space. So Northwestern has a cross Northwestern venture competition. So it's always been done live. Last week we did it virtually, and it meant bringing judges, virtually, bringing people on. Anyway, the result was the finals were held. We had 650 people online to watch this from all over the nation. We've had emails and communication with people from both coasts, different venture capital firms. The amount of engagement that we've had has been so much greater that, going back to, what I was originally saying, I'm going like, well, we have to have a virtual component of this going forward because of the engagement that it offered. So now how we do that and how we manage it, we'll figure all these things out, but we're all learning as we go along.
Right.
But it's forced us to learn, which is kind of fun.
It's forced us to learn. Yeah, it's made everyone be creative. And I feel like Northwestern, while it won't be open on campus at first next year, which I think is going to be very strange, maybe there's more ways to be able to reach the globe. I mean, you don't need to be in Evanston necessarily to learn from you.
Right. Exactly. So, I think there are possibilities here. But we're also learning. I mean, we all had to learn how to get online to teach within 3 weeks. It was like a crash course. So, I look forward to the summer where we can reevaluate among faculty what worked, what didn't, talk to students, what worked, what didn't. So our knowledge base around how to deliver virtually, we're all learning. And that would be the same to local businesses.
Yeah.
How do I work, even if I offer e-commerce, in terms of my products or whatever, how can I add an educational component upon that, to tell people why they should be buying this or that, and building this deeper relationship with the customer, which is so, so, so important for any retail or service business.
Do you see that happening with a lot of the small independent businesses in Evanston?
I think they're trying. Actually, I have not worked, but I've heard that there's a local spice house that is really doing a lot in e-commerce. And I keep thinking, how great, people are staying at home, and they're all of a sudden cooking. So, to be offer an online component, like, have you tried this spice for this dish? Or, we could be doing all kinds of things. So as I said, I have not talked to them, but I see the possibilities right off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even businesses that used to sell one thing have changed. Like, for instance, I know Lush, which is a wine shop in Evanston, they are selling produce. And you have other places that are making hand sanitizer, where they, like Few Whiskey, I know that they've been producing sanitizer because that's what we need. So it's meeting the consumer where they are. And I think that's the key of what people have to think about here, right?
Very much so.
Yeah. So what are some ways that people can get involved and take advantage of some of the offerings that Northwestern and your program is providing?
Yeah. So what we tried to do is we've used Startup Tree as a platform, and that in a crisis, you use what you can. So Startup Tree platform, we had been looking at to use as a link between alumni and students. And we kind of quickly manipulated it, so to speak, so it can link local businesses with our alumni and students. So it's put out there, but local businesses, if they go on the City of Evanston website, and it's in the newsletter and a variety of other outlets for Evanston, they can click on get on the platform and say what they want. And then what we have is alumni and students have offered office hours and their expertise. So businesses can go and say, what I really need now is social media, or I need a little PR, or maybe I need to do a little more customer analytics or financial analysis, whatever. They can look at the alumni and students and understand what their expertise is, and then sign up for office hours.
Well, I went and signed up last night. So
did you?
I did, because, my office is in Evanston. I could take advantage of this. and I want to see how it works because, for me, there's always things that you can learn. And why not take advantage of this? Do you plan to expand this outside of Evanston?
Yeah, I mean, we've had definitely interest. I'm a big believer in making sure things kind of work first before you go outside. But I certainly think, moving whether Rogers Park or, local communities as possible. We've had even a request to do it with Magnificent Mile businesses. So I just, I'm kind of like testing one more week to see if, people jump onto your office hour and things like that and go from there.
And it's all free, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is amazing. And why did you guys decide to do it free, by the way?
It was interesting. I was approached by one of our faculty members who works with the Evanston crisis team. So as they were looking at local businesses in Evanston and trying to understand what their issues were, the idea came out, why don't we tap into the Northwestern community that has experts from all over in all different fields to see if we can link them to the local businesses. So that's where it started.
A lot of people, there's a lot of controversy about Northwestern and Evanston over the years. And I think a lot of people think that Northwestern has a lot of land that they don't pay real estate taxes on. But I think this is a clear example of the other way, that Northwestern provides an amazing value and just a huge benefit to the community, whether it be Evanston or everything around here, because you're providing something that's going to help people survive the worst pandemic or economic downturn that we've seen since the Great Depression. You've got tremendous minds there, research, thought process behind it. And, without it, I think we're in a much harder position. So I thank you for what you're doing.
Well, no, I appreciate that. And what's what's good for me to see is that we've got students and alumni who've been reaching out and going like, how can we help? Especially, students these days, they really want mission-focused jobs that are meaningful. And, to be able to help in some small way is really important for them. So, and there are going to be a lot working virtually this summer. So I think, even if doors open, June 1st and we see more activity, I think there's a long-term, it's going to take a while for everyone to get back on their feet. And I do hope that all businesses, big, small, thereof, are really taking this time to reevaluate their customers, what they can offer, and how they, even things like their websites. I mean, I look at some local businesses' websites and I know immediately that they could do such a better job of communicating what's unique about them. And so this is an opportunity to get better. And for all of us to get better and improve. And if we can help in any way, that would be so much fun. It'd be great for all of us.
It's an amazing test bed, right? We'll learn a lot. Well, I've certainly taken that to heart. I've been updating my website and trying to, meet the consumer where they are. Number one is safety. Figure out how to be as safe as possible, and get people what they need. So thank you for coming on. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate the time that you spent here today. If people want to go ahead and take advantage of it, they should go to the City of Evanston's website, right?
Yep. And they can find links there just so that they can sign up.
Sounds great. Linda, thank you so much for being here, and continue what you're doing.
Thank you, Aaron. It was a pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.